Hi, I'm Nikki and I'm here to share a very special story. It's about a very special dog called Brian and his biggest wish. It's called Brian and the Christmas Sparkle and it's written by Nicola Edwards. Oh, that's me. Are you ready? Let's begin. Brian sat watching out of the window. Something in the air felt different. He couldn't quite work out what it was, but he knew that the air felt different on his fur. He looked around the room. It was Christmas, and all around him were sparkly stars and ornaments. The stockings were hung on the fireplace, and his mummy was in the kitchen, baking things that smelt nice. Mummy had said that they were cookies. He hoped that she would share. Last Christmas, Brian had to remind his family and friends that Christmas was about love. This year, they all remembered, which gave Brian a happy feeling in his tummy. He loved them all, even more than he loved his blue ball. As Brian looked back out of the window, he looked up at the sky. It was very white. In fact, he couldn't see any blue at all. Brian thought to himself. He was sure that he had never seen a white sky before. He wondered what it could mean. As Brian went for a walk with his mummy, he kept stopping to watch the sky. It was very white as the clouds. Brian wondered what it meant. When they got home, his mummy started baking more things that smelt good. Apparently, Darcy was coming to help her ice a cake later. As she was so busy, Brian decided to go and look for Blue Butterfly in the garden. As he stepped outside with his ball in his mouth, still staring into the sky, Blue Butterfly was just floating down into the garden. Brian was so busy staring at the sky, he didn't even notice. "Brian! Brian!" Blue Butterfly called. Suddenly, Brian looked at her. "Blue Butterfly, have you noticed something different about the sky?" he asked her, with a puzzled look on his face. Blue Butterfly looked up. "Ah," she said, with a knowing voice that only Blue Butterfly could use. Brian waited. Then he waited a little longer, and when Blue Butterfly still didn't answer his question, he asked again. "Blue Butterfly, have you noticed anything different about the sky?" Blue Butterfly giggled. "Sorry, Brian," she said, as she fluttered about. Brian waited a little longer. Finally, Blue Butterfly answered his question. "When the snow is coming, the sky sometimes seems whiter and cooler than normal," she explained, as Brian sat by her, staring upwards at the clouds. Brian shook his head, feeling a little bit confused. "Snow? What is snow, Blue Butterfly?" he asked. Blue Butterfly giggled again. "Brian, snow is when the water in the air gets very cold. It drops in fluffy little snowflakes." "Snowflakes?" Brian whispered. "They sound magical." That afternoon, Brian sat on the sofa staring out of the window. He was hoping that the snowflakes would come. He so wanted to see them. They sounded magical. He waited and waited. Then he waited a little longer, but no snowflakes fell out of the sky. Brian sighed, then flopped on the sofa with his sulky face. He so wanted to see the snowflakes that Blue Butterfly had told him about. He had never seen a snowflake before. When his mummy came in with her car keys rattling, he tilted his head and looked at her. "That's a sad face," she said to him. Brian looked at her, waiting to see where she was going. "Do you want to come in the car?" she asked. Brian leapt off the sofa, ran up to his mummy and jumped up and down in excitement. He loved the car. As they pulled up into the garden centre, Brian sighed again. He didn't want to see flowers. He wanted to see snowflakes. Even as his mummy dragged him into the shop, he was still sulking. Until he looked up. There in front of him was the most magical scene. Everywhere he looked, there was glitter, sparkles, shiny lights and stars. It was the prettiest thing that he had ever seen. "Isn't it beautiful?" his mummy said. But Brian didn't even hear her because he was so busy staring at the pretty decorations hanging all around the room. As he looked, all of a sudden, something caught his eye. It was white. It was sparkly. It was so pretty. Could it be? Was it snow? Brian dragged his mummy over to the white sparkly stuff on the floor. She laughed. Brian slowly nudged it with his paw. Nudge, nudge. It moved. But then Brian noticed it was warm. He was sure that Blue Butterfly had said that snow was cold. And if snow fell from the sky, it couldn't possibly be indoors, could it? Brian flopped down on the snow and huffed. When would he get to see the snow? "Oh, Brian, did you think it was snow?" his mummy said as she watched him lying on the floor. Brian raised his eyes up and looked at her, then sighed another sigh and rolled over on his back, waiting for a tummy tickle. His mummy laughed and rubbed his tummy. Then he trotted off behind her, sniffing the decorations and hoping for snowflakes. As Christmas Eve arrived, Brian still had not seen the snow. Every morning he ran downstairs and leapt up on the sofa, looking out of the window, waiting for snow to arrive, and still it was not there. He trotted into the garden, sniffing around the grass. As he looked at the house, he could see the pretty light shining in the window and the little ornaments that his mummy had placed on the windowsills. And as he sat staring at the light shining, Blue Butterfly floated down and landed on his head. Brian giggled. "Hello, Brian. Happy Christmas," she said. Brian smiled. "Happy Christmas, Blue Butterfly." Then Blue Butterfly leant down and whispered into Brian's ear. "It will come when it's ready, Brian. You just need to be patient." Then she floated up into the sky. Brian smiled. Blue Butterfly always knew. As the sun glistened through the curtains on Christmas morning, Brian looked up at the ceiling, and all around him was the most wonderful white light. Brian had never seen anything like it before. He got an excited feeling in his tummy, and he ran down the stairs. As he leapt on the sofa, as he had done every morning, he placed his paws on the window and squealed. Falling from the sky were the most beautiful white, sparkly snowflakes. Hundreds, thousands, millions of tiny, perfect snowflakes, all twisting and turning in the sky and covering everything Brian could see. Brian ran to the back door, barking for his mummy to come and open it. The moment she did, he ran out into the garden and bounced across the snow. He rolled and jumped and wiggled until his fur was covered in the beautiful white snowflakes. As Brian rolled in the snow, he had never felt happier in his tummy. The excited feelings grew and grew. Brian grinned from paw to paw that finally the special snow day had arrived, just in time for Christmas. And just as he thought that the day couldn't get any better, Boo came flying into the garden, and in their excitement they rolled, jumped and plodded around the garden until they were covered in the beautiful snowflakes. And when they got tired, they sat wrapped up in blankets with their tongues out of the window until they caught the sparkly snowflakes. Happy sparkly Christmas, Brian. That was Brian and the Christmas Sparkle. I'm so pleased that Brian finally got to see some snow. Didn't he look happy? Maybe we'll get to see some snow this Christmas too. And until next time, we hope that you have a lovely Christmas, and we'll see you again soon for another story. Bye!